we agree. But the meaning of security, we differ on it.
Sadat returned to Egypt, saying he had broken what he called the psychological barrier by visiting and meeting the Israelis. But many Egyptians were left wondering who'd been the real winner.
Israel achieved unprecedented gains. The head of state of the largest Arab country in resources, people, and armed forces, an important frontline state, is visiting Israel. The visit was a great gain to Israel. They would have said to him, "Thank you and goodbye." That's what almost happened. But for Sadat to say he was going to embarrass Israel and to gain initiative and to break the psychological barrier, this is all just rhetoric.
Even an old lady like I am will live to see the day.
I've always said it.
You always call me an old lady, Mr. President.
The following month, on Christmas Day and Sadat's birthday, Begin returned the visit. He met Sadat in his residence in the Egyptian town of Ismailia, overlooking the Suez Canal. The meeting ended in acrimony. Sadat and Begin remained poles apart, and the tension between them steadily increased. The only agreement was to form committees to continue the negotiations on a framework for peace. In January 1978, an Egyptian delegation headed by the newly appointed Foreign Minister Mohammed Ibrahim Kamel arrived in Jerusalem for the first committee talks with his Israeli counterparts. The talks were held in this hotel, but the atmosphere turned unfriendly when Kamel touched on one of the most sensitive issues of all, sovereignty over the holy city.
He enumerated all the demands of Egypt, including the liberation of Palestinian occupied territories, including Jerusalem. And I remember that day the Israelis were shocked. The next day the Jerusalem Post wrote an article called chutzpah, which I think in Israel means what a nerve. I mean, these people come to us here and ask for our capital.
Begin could hardly restrain his anger. Later that evening, at a dinner in honor of the Egyptian delegation, Begin hit back.
Peace cannot be established with a redivisioned Jerusalem, the capital city not only of the state of Israel, but traditionally and culturally of the Jewish people since the days of King David.
The differences were now out in the open. The Egyptian foreign minister stuck to his position.
The basic elements of peace, of the positive peace, of the lasting peace, of the just peace, is the element I stated very clearly this morning in my speech in the opening session of the political.
A crisis point had been reached. Sadat called his delegation back to Cairo. Following the breakdown of talks, US President Jimmy Carter decided to intervene personally to revive the negotiations.
Almost out of despair, Carter decides on the summit. And his attitude at that